Ignite is an ongoing series of speedy presentations. Each speaker gets only 5 minutes and 20 slides that auto-advance every 15 seconds.
Bismillah ar-Rahman Assalamu alaikum and good evening. A few years ago, I was assigned at King Abdullah University of Science and Technology. And one of my assignments was to develop a museum, which was eventually named the Museum of Science and Technology in Islam. Now, the museum highlights the contribution of Muslims during the Islamic Golden Age. I was totally responsible to review and approve the contents of the museum, which were developed by a company called MTE Studios that is known for its iconic work in Ibn Battuta Mall in Dubai. Now, MTE bombarded me with a wealth of information for me to review and approve, and I realized that I had a number of challenges. Now, one challenge was that a lot of contents seemed to be exaggerated, and my challenge was to identify these contents, prove that they were exaggerated, and reject them to result with balanced contents, and I have an example to demonstrate. Another example of a challenge was that Islam seems to be very built into scientific discoveries, but I had to present scientific contents rather than religious. Also, I had to reject some contents that contradicted Islamic belief. My final challenge was that some of the information, or all the information, had to be eventually translated to Arabic, and I had to review the contents in both languages, Arabic and English, but making sure that the Arabic is as good as the English. Now, the first example I wanted to share, I call it the Red Sea Canal, which was information previously presented in Ibn Battuta Mall, as well as a global traveling exhibition called the Sultans of Science. It talks about a Chinese Muslim admiral named Zheng He, who actually voyaged the seas to open trade routes with China. And his voyages actually preceded many of the colonial European explorers by 50 to 100 years. Now, one information that actually puzzled me is that it says that Zheng He actually reached Europe through the Red Sea through a canal. And this was mentioned in a book called 1434. So the only canal that we know at the moment is the Suez Canal, which was built in the 19th century. So I did my own research, and I realized that in the 19th century BCE, the Egyptian pharaohs actually built the first canal. It was not well maintained. And then in the 6th century, the Persians invaded Egypt and reopened the canal. The Romans came in the 2nd century and also reopened the canal. And finally, the Muslims reopened the canal in the 7th century, but closed it afterwards in about 1 century. So the canal was completely gone by the 12th century. Now, this canal actually connects what is called the Bitter Lakes, which used to be part of the Red Sea, all the way to the Nile Delta, providing a passage to the Mediterranean. And then the Persian made that little extension, and now the only existing passage, which is the Suez Canal. So I was able to prove that Zheng He actually never crossed that canal. And MTE Studios was happy with my research that they also decided to remove the content from the exhibits in Ibn Battuta Mall, as well as the traveling exhibit, Sultans of Science. The other story I have for you is called Whose Idea Was It? And is to do with Islamic views on evolution. Now, I rejected this content, but for the sake of sharing it with you, I'm calling the next slide an evolution philosophy, which says that God created matter, which evolved to a mineral life, and the highest form of mineral life is coral, which looks like a plant, so it evolved to a vegetation, which evolved to its highest form, date palm, which has a male and female, which evolved to the smallest form of animal, evolving to a highest form of animal, which is the ape, and evolving to a highly intelligent ape. Of course, that's a joke, but actually evolving to a barbarian. Now, regardless of the humor, now this is a serious work that was published in the 12th century in what is known as the Encyclopedia of the Brethren of Purity, written by a secret society of philosophers and free thinkers in Iraq. Now, I rejected this content because it contradicts the Islamic belief that God honored us by creating us as a human. Now, if I take that last content out of context, and if I tell you in the 1812 an English translation of the encyclopedia was available. And then only 50 years after came Charles Darwin, who is an English naturalist, and published his own evolution theory. So that brings me to the question, whose idea was it? Now, that's my challenge with reviewing museum contents. And I approved a lot of contents that are on display in the museum. If you want to know more, go to museum.caus.edu.sa. And you can also see www.sultansofscience.com. Thank you for being a wonderful audience, and thank you.